goes live, and then it loads. All right, well, it says we're live, so we are just gonna roll with it. Welcome everybody to another awesome interview I get to do today. I get to have the awesome Jared Ganem with me. He has been, we've been in touch, over a year now, I think, which has been awesome. Jared, do you remember where we initially got connected?
Oh man, I think I got a Facebook memory today or yesterday where it's like, it's your friend anniversary or something like that. It's like it was over a year ago, which is pretty crazy. I think we
Yeah,
first got connected through. Well, I was looking for No More Mr. Nice Guy stuff. We got connected through one of those Facebook groups, and I joined yours, I believe.
yeah, it was Chuck Chapman's group.
Oh, well, oh my God, yeah, you're right. It was.
Yeah,
It was. Wow, that's
yeah.
crazy.
So
Things start to blend
yeah,
together
it's
after a while.
I know. I know. So today I've got Jared joining me. I'm really excited to just share this time with you, the space, because you are going to get to experience just the amazing man that Jared is. I don't want to talk about so much of the doing because Jared has the capacity to do a lot, but really just the amazing being that you are. And I got to experience over the last, I guess you could call it 5 months, through our time together in coaching. Um, so, Jared, if there was anything that you wanted to say in terms of like an introduction for people to know about you, or some cool thing about you to share, what do you got? What
Yeah,
would you share?
for sure. Happy to share that. And I also want to say, like, this isn't really about me. This is about, like, I actually got a chance to work with Andrew. So he's talking about, he got to witness, like, my being. Really, one of the things that I really appreciate about Andrew was, like, he's a heart centered guy. There's so much advice out there right now, which is, hey, you're going to be an alpha male. You got to do it this way, do it that way. And there wasn't anybody coming from a heart centered place. I felt it was like fake macho bravado stuff. And when I saw Andrew, he's a heart centered guy. I reached out to him. I was looking for help, and he was always right there for me. So if you're in his group, you're in the right place. But yeah, I'm Jared. I'm 35. I live in Florida. I used to be a pro wrestler, so jumping off the top rope and slamming people with steel chairs, that type of thing. Wrestling on TV in my underpants. So you can laugh at me if you want to. But then I got out of that business, moved to Florida, and then what I do now is I actually coach people, helping people out. But I also do, sales over the phone. I live with my girlfriend. We've been together for 3 years. Things are good. And I met Andrew through Chuck Chapman's group. So, cool,
Nice.
yeah.
So, if we kind of look back at, your history of, obviously, okay, like, I mean, I know a bit of the backstory, but you got into wrestling and like, I know that personal development has sort of been a part of your journey for a long time. Like, just share with us like what that journey has been like, because you've done some pretty cool stuff up to this point in terms of where you've gone and some of the things you've experienced.
Yeah, for sure. So when I was a kid, there's like I used to get picked up from school from my grandma, and she had two stations on TV. She didn't have cable, so it was either the Golden Girls, the news, or it was pro wrestling. So I got into pro wrestling at 5 years old. It's the only thing I wanted to watch. So what I did is I got into wrestling. It's the only thing I wanted to do with my life. I was maybe like 19, 21, like between 19 and 21 years old. I got all the way to WWE, had some tryouts with the company, wrestled in front of my hometown arena with my parents. They were watching in the crowd, which was really cool. But then it didn't work out the way I wanted to. And it was really tough for a while because he's 5 years old. Like, I'm going to be a pro wrestler. Like, that's what I want to do. And I wasn't doing that anymore. I got a minimum wage job, working, full time at a radio station, like minimum wage. And I kind of lost myself a lot. Who, if I'm not a wrestler, who am I? So that kind of got me into the personal development world. Like, what's your dream? What's your goals? How do you step up to the next level? I got into that a little bit before that, though, too, because I was into bodybuilding and weightlifting. And I read a book. It's called Burn the Fat, Feed the Muscles by a guy named Tom Venuto. If you want to get in shape, it's a great book. Um, but he talked about, like, it wasn't just like, hey, get in shape, but hey, how do you use the power of your mind and the power of your focus? And he quotes psycho-cybernetics. I know you always quote the book, Andrew. He quotes that a lot. He quotes Tony Robbins a lot. He quotes like every person. Like, that was my first real dive into personal development, was learning from that book on how to get in better shape in college. So that journey kind of took me into personal development in some way.
Hmm. And obviously you've gotten into, I know you were in coaching before. That's sort of been in your world for the last couple of years as well. Um, what was that experience like? Before we kind of came into working together, like, in terms of just you coaching others and you being coached, like, can you sort of paint that picture for us as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I was trying to figure out like what I was going to do with my life after wrestling. And I was married before. I got a girlfriend now, but I was married before. The marriage wasn't going too well. I'm not here to knock anybody, but I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. So I was going to all these personal development seminars, like trying to get my own self right. I had a business. I was doing a 6-figure business doing video production for like live sporting events in arenas. So that's how I pivoted. I got out of wrestling and I got into video production doing live events. So this is actually a video production headset, so I still have it.
That's
You know,
awesome.
take camera one, take camera two. I was doing that. But I was going to all these like business seminars and personal development seminars. And I used to be kind of like, when I was a kid, I used to watch magic. So like David Copperfield and, illusionists and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to always be the type of guy that was like, well, how does David Copperfield do the trick? So I was like, how does he make the card disappear? So I was at all these events and I was like, these coaches like, oh, boom, transformed and just changing people. And I'm like, there's no way I'm anywhere near that level. I'm like, that's insane. I don't know how he just did that. Like in 30 minutes, it was crazy. But then after one of the events, a friend of mine called me, and he was like, "Hey, dude, I'm not doing too good," and like he was in a bad spot, and I didn't know what the heck to do. But what I just started doing was I just started like repeating what I thought I heard at the event,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like, boom, 30 minutes, he's fine, and I'm like, what just happened? I don't know what just happened, and I'm like, I didn't even know what I was doing, so I got to learn this now. So I started learning it like as a hobby, but I was still working my video business. I was just studying it. Like I was fascinated with how psychology worked. So I just devoured all of it. I had a couple of side clients here and there. The cool thing, it kind of came full circle because I'm like, I'm not a coach. I can't coach anybody. So what I started doing is I started coaching pro wrestlers like where I was at, who was
Right.
trying to make it to WWE. And a
Yeah.
couple of the guys made it to WWE, which is pretty cool that we're working with. So it's pretty neat. But I never thought to break it into like working with people or working with anybody
Mm.
outside of wrestling. I was just like, I'm going to work my gig, work my job, do this on the side. I never thought to really do that like as a full time thing. Does that make
Got it.
sense?
Yeah, for sure. So, by the time we sort of kind of came into contact with each other, and you know, what do you find sort of like brought you to this place where you're like, hey, having a coach in my life is sort of the direction I want to go? Like, what were you noticing?
What I was noticing was that there was another level for me.
Mm.
Um, I mentioned that I got into coaching, and I mentioned I had the video production business. What had happened is couple years a couple years after the video production business and the coaching thing started, when I started to learn all this stuff. I told you I was married before. The marriage it went off the rails. There was addiction involved. I'm not going to speak ill of anybody, but it was just addiction involved. Very, very difficult situation, and that affected me mentally, emotionally, physically, financially. Simultaneously, while that's all happening, like my ex was going to rehab and all this crazy stuff. I lose the business because my biggest client stopped paying. So now I'm $60,000 in debt, and I don't have it in my bank account. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, my ex is in my ex I was married at the time. She's in rehab. I let my health go to just total crap. I'm like 60 pounds, 70 pounds overweight at that point, and I got creditors and like everybody's calling me. It was rough, and I was like, this is not how I want my life to go at all. Now, I had studied coaching for a while, but I wasn't living any of it. Right? I wasn't living it was all
Hmm.
intellectual stuff, but I wasn't living it. So I had like my whole life fell apart there for like a year or two, and I had to like by my bootstraps literally change every aspect of my life. And I got to a point where I was like on solid ground. I had dug myself out of it a little bit, but there's another level. I couldn't do it on my own anymore. So I
Mm.
think that's right when we started intersecting. Where I'm like, I'm looking for somebody that's heart centered, that understands that isn't trying to do like the false macho bravado thing, that I could talk to and connect with and help me get to the next level. I think that's right when our paths kind of cross.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting that you speak to, just again, like that you got to this place where like, yeah, you really did create like a really strong foundation. I mean, I think that it's no surprise. I mean, the foundation is well intact, it's in place. You're embodying that. And it's really really powerful to hear you share that, like, okay, like you saw like, okay, there is a path forward from even this place, and it's probably going to require me to get some sort of additional support.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, it was really just, it was like right after the pandemic hit too.
Hmm.
So it's just me with my own thoughts trying to improve myself in my house with my girlfriend, and like she's works from home too. So we're just constantly feedback looping each other. Like I'm coaching her, she's coaching me. But that's long term. That's not, you don't want to be your girlfriend's coach or
Hmm.
vice versa. So it just wasn't, not that it wasn't good because she does all the same stuff I do, coaching and stuff. But I needed
Hmm.
an outside perspective that wasn't her, because it's like you're too close to the situation.
Yeah. So as if we go back and sort of look at the beginning of us, kind of coming together and working together, you know, were there any surprises for you? Were there things that in our co-creation of the time together, like, was there anything where like, oh, I wasn't expecting that to happen, or he does this differently than what I've seen? Like, what was sort of that experience in the beginning?
No, there's nothing that like stood out as like a red flag with how like you did anything differently. But what really stood out was that number one, you were heart centered, and number two, I immediately trusted you. Like I had an
Mm,
instinctive trust in you, and then you were able to help me get to levels deeper than I thought I was able to get to. So, for example, I didn't realize one of my main patterns was, well, for years I had to fix my relationship, I had to fix my finances, I had to fix my health, I had to fix everything, and I had been in this entrained habit of having to fix everything. So
hmm.
I would just relate to everything from this fight or flight response of I need to fix it now, and I wasn't relaxing at all. There was a lot of little things like that that would come up. You were like, there was something you said, it kind of broke my brain. You're like, well, are you achieving out of a sense of like you're doing it because you want to, or you're doing it because like it's a fight or flight response? And I'm like, oh my god, like everything that I've done to grow myself recently has been out of fight or flight. It's never been just from like creating because I want to. It's been like a
Hmm.
I have to or else I die type of thing, you know. So that was kind of that kind of warped my perception a little bit, in a good way.
Yeah, it's one of the things that me, you, a lot of guys, we kind of we get a lot of satisfaction in the doing, the achievement, the creation of things. And what it ends up becoming is like almost like a winning strategy. That's a really powerful way of looking at it, that like from that way of being, like you can create a lot from that place. But eventually there comes a point where like there's sort of a wall or a barrier to that. And it requires a not so much a total 360, but just a different way of coming at that. A different way of like, okay, like this is still a good thing. Those qualities that you have are amazing qualities, but like in order to get to that next level, like you're talking about, what might that shift have to be? So it's awesome to hear you speak to that again. Anything more you want to say to that?
Yeah, there's another one too. That is probably one of the most profound things. I don't want to spoil anything if anybody ends up working with Andrew, but I you're in your own body a lot. You're in your own head, so you
Mm,
think that you're being perceived a certain way, and for good or bad. Like, but Andrew took me through a process where I had to actually experience what other people experienced me as, and I was
mhm,
gonna think I just figured it was all negative, or people didn't care about me, or it's like, oh yeah, it's Jared over there, whatever. And when we actually went through this process, I realized people looked at me much differently than I ever thought that they did, because it's one of those things where I just would have never thought that. I was always downplaying myself, not thinking I had much to offer, just thinking I was like run of the mill average, big deal type of guy. And people were like, wow, like I got such a different perspective that I wasn't being perceived the way that I thought I was, which helped
Hmm.
me step out in the world even more. This has been really cool.
Yeah, and when I think back to those conversations, it was really powerful because again, like you're a charismatic guy. You to me, and I think probably to a lot of people, like you are the epitome of masculinity, right? Like when I like to be honest, and it was really powerful to see that, not necessarily just masculinity, but like warrior energy or just like strength was really being shown to you. Like people truly saw you as this individual and not from a place of, you know, being the alpha male or that type of thing, but actually just like this is who you are. That you are strength and power and warrior, but you also are like vitality and creation and like just what a beautiful combination of qualities. And it was really powerful to see, where where that went for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what that was too is I didn't have that perception. I still had that. I still had that self identity being the guy that was 60 pounds overweight in a broken marriage with $60,000 debt hanging over my head. So thinking like that's what I thought I was being perceived as out in the world, and then to realize that that wasn't even true anymore. Like I
Hmm.
was still in that fight or flight response. That was really mind blowing to get that. So I got so much from that alone.
Yeah. So where did you see, those qualities then having an impact on your life in other areas?
I am probably 1,000,000% more laid back, out
Mm.
of my head a lot more. I am probably also much more likely to just take action on things, putting myself out there. I went from just being a coach to wrestlers. Now I'm actually taking on clients for normal people as well, which is cool. You encourage me to do that, which is awesome. Um, in my relationship, I'm much more laid back, much more having a leadership type energy. I was I used to tend to overthink things, and I noticed that that mental chatter is gone at this point.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, again, just like you really feel it, like just a certain sense of like relaxation and peace to you. Like there is still, again, I mean, I get to experience this more, but like you've got a tremendous capacity to like do things and be in creation. And what a what a great place to come from in that of like not having to be in survival to do it, to come from that place of survival, but actually to be able to come from a place of peace and relaxation and curiosity.
For sure. And the one thing I always felt too is I always felt like you had my back.
Mm.
I remember one time I was like, dude, I just need to level with you. And I was able to just connect with you. And I just always knew you had my back. And I just had like a really deep level of trust with you right
Yeah, so important. I
away.
mean, that's if there's one thing that is needed in this line of work is trust.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I was talking to a friend of mine today. He said the perfect line that reminds me of this. Um, he goes, there's so many marketers out there right now calling themselves coaches
Hmm.
instead of people coming from a real just coach's heart. I'm like, man, that's so true. Like so many people like the flashy Lamborghinis or like alpha male mindset or something. Like, you just came from a pure coach's heart, helping people get the results, and you're doing great work in the world.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate to have, um, others in my life as well that kind of hold that space for me. So thanks for speaking to it. So in that trust, was there anything that maybe you didn't like about the experience or things that, pissed you off?
Uh, well, so I mean, I can't speak for everybody. Like, I'm the type of guy that likes to go deep. I mean, as a hobby, I'll go sit in a room and try to dig up and try to figure stuff out and try to get to the next level. There were some confronting things where like just some difficult challenges came up and you're holding me to it, and I'm like, man, like, this is confronting, man. But I would I would go in and look for those things anyway. So you're not doing anything to like shock me or offended me or anything. But I
Hmm.
mean, if someone's not used to that, if they've never had a coach before, or they don't know what a coaching relationship is, then it might be jarring. But that just seemed kind of normal to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's when it seems like, um, just a level of sort of comfort in that. Like, hey, this is sort of the experience.
Yeah,
Part of this is going to come, a part of that challenge or confrontation might come as a part of it.
I think you told me that right on the first call. You're like, "Hey, look, there might be some confronting parts to this, and that's good." And I think I told him, like, "Dude, I'm being confronted right now." I'm like, good, I'm happy you told me. So,
Yeah. Well, and that's a great thing to speak to because yeah, inevitably, I mean, if there's never confrontation or challenge, it's probably it's that the setup of the coaching relationship is probably easy in a sense. The other part of it is that is the coach really doing their job? If it's always just like easy and fun to be around, it's probably questionable a little bit.
yeah, I know what you mean. I think somebody told me one time they go, a lot of times, even like big executives, they hire a coach because no one will tell them no,
Yeah,
right? Like they're just used to everybody yesing them to death. So if you're going to be another person that just yeses them to death, well, then what's the point? That's not why they hired you. And I
yeah,
always took that, not that I work with big high power executives or anything, but I just heard that once as like an anecdote, and that kind of just stuck with me.
yeah.
Yeah,
A place that you mentioned, hey, maybe you're not working with them yet, but if that's something that you want, you can create that.
right, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, and to come back to that piece, and also what a what a gift that you brought into the conversation by sharing, like, hey, I am kind of confronted right now by this because I can speak for myself. There's many conversations that I have, or I maybe don't speak up, or I sort of like sugarcoat things. I try and soften the blow a little bit. So I really appreciated you bringing that into our space, so we could like really look at like what is the deeper meaning behind what's going on here.
yeah. And there's always a breakthrough, right? I talked to my girlfriend about this before. I'm like, every time you set a goal, it's like if you got a GPS in your car and you say that's where I want to go, just by you saying that's where you want to go, it's not a straight line because you
Hmm.
have to like take a left and you hit the detour and there's a stop sign. So like just by setting the goal sets up the path of like the detours and stuff, right? So I feel
Yeah,
like if you're expecting it in a coaching relationship to just be a straight line to your goal, I think that's unrealistic because this is what I want, Andrew. Okay, go for it. Well, stuff's going to come up
yeah,
as like the natural byproduct of that. So I don't think that means that something's wrong. I think what that means instead is like you're on the path. If you just swallow it for a minute and get on the other side, there's a breakthrough.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate you speaking to that because it is true, right? I think the nice thing would be like, oh, like just I set the goal and it's just that straight path to get there, depending on who you are. But yeah, the reality is like it often there's twists, there's churns, and that's a part of the adventure. So yeah, I'm with you on that. So, now that we're sort of, at the end of this period of coaching together, what's next for you? Like what are you seeing as the future for yourself?
Man, now I'm going to be able to like step in my full power and actually show up in the world and not be in my head or from a fight or flight perspective, but actually from a place of creation, which is what you helped me out tremendously from. Like, what if you? This is what you helped me with. What if you could create from a place of this is what you want to create, and not because you feel like you're running away from something or you need to
Mm,
fix something. Much more at ease with myself, much more at ease with my relationship, and the power I bring there, leadership abilities, and just being able to start. I was also hiding myself in the background a little bit. Okay, well, I
mhm.
have a full time job, and I'll coach a little bit on the side. And now you've really helped allow me to step out and help bigger people. Like, well, dude, just help people, man. So I have been, thanks to you. And it's been a really cool journey, man.
Mhm. Is there anything that you're willing to share in terms of like those steps of creation that you see? Like, um, yeah.
Man, it's a really good question. there is, and I want to laser focus on it, and I want to create it, and I don't want to get like pre-applauded for not doing it, if that makes
Mm.
sense, right?
Okay.
Because like for example, like on social media, I'm gonna do this, just wait and see until and then like you get all the likes and shares and comments, and then you got the hit of dopamine you were looking for, and then you don't do it anymore. I'm gonna hold it, and I will wait
Mm.
for the accolades of what I'm gonna claim until I actually do
All right.
it. Is that fair?
That's fair.
I hope that's
Yeah,
not a
for sure.
cop out. That's how I actually feel about it. Though, like
Well, I mean, the interesting thing with that is like, okay, like, yeah, I totally
that's
get.
actually my personality. How I would,
Well, here's the interesting thing. It's like, okay, so those individuals that kind of put those posts out on Facebook, in the moment, they're probably like, okay, I'm going to do this thing, and this is going to be empowering for myself, and there might be a possibility that they don't do it. You don't have to say anything, but a place of like, what if you just made that declaration and you knew that you were going to get to that place somehow?
what I'll say is I'll use my story and what I learned through you and what I learned through stepping out to my authentic self. I'm going to help as many people as possible with that too.
Mm, I like it. Totally. Yeah, I mean, it's so fitting for a few of the conversations that we had, and that's exciting.
So,
That's exciting.
yeah,
Just we'll leave it at that. But that's
yeah.
that's awesome, man. So as we start to kind of wind down here, is there any? Well, let's start from this place. Like, if people wanted to connect with you, if they want to find out more about you, how can they do that?
You can just find me on Facebook. This is mostly on Facebook and YouTube. It's just Jared, Jared, Ganem, Ganem. It's like N as in Nancy first and M as in Mary second. It's how my mother always said her name on the phone when she was talking to telemarketers, which is funny. The things that stay with you after all these years.
Yeah, there you
Or
go.
yeah, so that's the best way to get a hold of me. I do have a Facebook group you can check out. It's a new one. It's facebook.com/groups/self mastery for men.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll put that in the links as well, so people can just easily find it. Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, that's the cool thing with that is that I think what you put that group together about a month ago.
Like the first day of January,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, and it just
Yeah,
took off, and and great conversations happening there. So if you are a guy and you want to get involved in a high powered community, that is a place to look. um so yeah, that's awesome, man. And again, the cool thing with this is that if there's more stuff that you want to share in the future, you're more than welcome to.
for sure. I mean,
um
what I want to end with is like, guys, if you are in the group and you're here for a reason, the reason why you're in the group, if you're listening to my voice, you're here for a reason. Andrew's a certified No More Mr. Nice Guy coach, certified through Dr. Robert Glover. That's how I initially found him. I couldn't
mhm,
find it, like, because Dr. Robert Glover doesn't really take on many private clients. Like, it's super expensive, exclusive to do it. I was looking for someone to talk to that wasn't just going to give me the, oh, dude, just be an alpha male and screw everybody type of advice. Andrew's the real deal. So if you're looking for help, heart centered, you can trust him. He's there for you when you need him, which is rare in the coaching business. I can't say that, but you know what I mean. Like it's
mhm.
rare to find that in the men's space right now, and he's the real deal. I definitely recommend reaching out to him if you need help.
Thank you, brother. I'm
Yeah, you're welcome.
acknowledged. May I acknowledge you as well?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, yeah. I so want to acknowledge you for just the connection that you bring. The true, just powerful ability to share your message and um, really have an impact in what you do. It's so the feeling that I get from it is that it creates ripples. Every time you put something out into the world, you feel like there's an impact. It feels like there's somebody that's going to be reached by what you're sharing. I really want to acknowledge you for the heart that you have. Again, just that real stand for like, hey, I just want to have an impact on people and share where I've come from, what I've created, and the path forward. That like it's such a beautiful thing. And it's exciting to me that whoever comes into your world gets to witness this, gets to witness all of you in that. I really want to acknowledge you for just your presence, your strength, that warrior energy you have, and your ability to be creation. Just that whoever you come into contact, that um, that they get to be with you, they get to share space with you, and get to truly just witness all of who you are. It's really it's exciting. I can't wait till we actually get to meet in person one of these
Yeah,
days.
one of these, it's going to happen, man.
Um, and yeah, just thank you for sharing this time with me, here on this call, but also over the last 5 months. It's been an experience.
Man, thank you for helping me. So I appreciate
Hmm.
you, brother.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right, man. I'm gonna end us here. Thanks everybody for checking this out. Again, if you get a chance to connect with Jared, on one of the social media platforms, and let us know. If you have any questions or comments, as you check out this video on replay. I'm sure both of us will check it out and answer them for you. So thanks so much, guys. Bye for now.